Welcome to Conversations with Zaki Baruti once again. We're looking forward to a great show this evening. We got an outstanding guest with us, but before I begin, I always like to give a shout out to people in the community. First of all, I want to shout out to my family and members of the Universal African Peoples Organization, as well as to Reverend Larry Rice and the New Life Evangelistic Center. And I just want to have a couple of special shout outs to Brother Y.C. Young and Brother Victor Martin, Valerie Holder, Michelle Williams, as well as Aaliyah Mitchell. On that note, turning to our guest, I'm very proud to have in the studio with me Brother Anthony Shahid. Brother Anthony Shahid, how you doing there this evening, young man?
I'm doing blacktastic.
You're doing blacktastic. Yes, that's a great thing. As we get into the show, for each of my programs and with my guests, I'd like for the audience to kind of have a sense of who they are, you know, in terms of a little bit about their background. I know you're the face of a lot of controversy out here in the St. Louis area, as well as throughout the state and the country. So just share with our audience a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I always start with the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. I've been with no God but Allah and Muhammad is his messenger. I came up here in St. Louis. My mom, my family, I got 6 brothers and sisters, and my mother adopted 2. But we don't use the word adopt, but that's what she usually say. But bottom line is 8 of us. And came up extremely poor. It was P-O-R, not poor, but poor.
So we both know that experience, all right.
But my mother pulled us on up by her. She wouldn't take no for an answer. And she wound up getting in the store business and started with penny candy. She didn't have much, but she took that penny candy and juices and pinball machines, and she made a fortune. And I'm blessed, you know, and I was blessed at a young age to hear the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's teaching, and it was him who changed my life. Once I heard the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's teaching through my grandmother and my grandfather, and I used to see her every night going to sleep reading that Holy Quran.
Right.
And,
so with that said then, so your mother was an entrepreneur, and she put her loving care over each of the members of the family. Now, in terms of you coming into the teachings of the Nation of Islam and Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in what year was that?
I was very young. I was 8 years old. I'm 62 years old now when I first heard the messenger's teaching through my grandmother. Because the brothers used to always come through with the Muhammad Speak newspaper. And I would just sit there and listen to them talk. And 1418 North Union is where my grandmother stayed at. And I wound up moving with her because I used to love how she cooked. And she could cook, I mean, cook for real, you know, so. And we would always hear about the messengers teaching. They would always put money to the side from every week when my grandfather got paid for whatever program now Elijah Muhammad desired to do. He had a lot of people that helped him, supporters that was not in the mosque. My grandmother and them and 4 or 5 people down the street from us, that's what they did.
So with that said, and it has set you on a strong foundation for being very outspoken in the community. Yes. And, you know, in terms of just reflections on the Ferguson uprisings, of which you and I were very close in responding to the murder of Michael Brown Jr., I would never forget the many times that we were confronting the police, and you used to give out a prayer that also strengthened myself out there along with a number of other people. Reflections on Ferguson real quick, because there's a whole number of different issues I want to address in this short time.
When it was 4 months and a half, every day we were there on some level. We were out in the streets. And it was the last straw that broke the camel back, if I could sum it up. And that's why for 4 months and a half, and if you remember, Muhammad Ali was already a global figure. You didn't have to make him a global figure. When our brother passed, may Allah forgive him for any of his sins, he only stayed in the media for 2 weeks, every day for 2 weeks. But he was already a global figure. Michael Brown Jr. was a global figure, an international figure, a worldwide figure for 4 months and a half. And it was because of a lot of brothers and sisters out there. I mean, I can't even start naming some. It's so many of them. I mean, you name them, they were there.
Right, and of course we have to salute those young leaders that came forward in support of a just cause. Moving forward, I know you're the president as well as, I assume, the founder of Tauheed Youth Organization. Am I correct?
Correct.
So what motivated you to form or found the Tauheed Youth Organization?
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad's teaching. He just told us anytime you see a rotten apple a rotten peach, you take that mushy part away from it and take that seed out and plant that seed, and you have a brand new peach tree or apple tree. Our people were doing so many things, and because Elijah Muhammad made men, he didn't make boys. I saw a lot of boys, and Elijah Muhammad showed us how to make girls, women, and be respected. And he taught us how to do that, how to wake up a sleeping elephant and let that elephant know when he's asleep, don't nobody want to fool with him.
So in your outreach, as far as trying to transform the lives of young black youth in our communities, approximately what would be the number of people that you feel that you have actually touched?
Hundreds of thousands, because I've had the youth group for 30 years, but I came into the mosque at a very young age. I say around 12 or 13 years old, I was selling Muhammad Speaks newspapers. We were out soldiering. So I've had a long, extensive career in this community. 30 years with the youth group, but 47 years I've been in this community working.
So within that context, because I can recall several times I was with you on some of your patrols into the community, as you know, there's been some real deep, heavy criminal activities that have occurred in our community. One in which this 12-year-old schoolgirl went missing, and they eventually found her in a vacant house, of which there was a press conference to address that issue. The situation with the young 15-year-old being shot and murdered. I want you to address that whole, because many times people just associate us with speaking out against police violence, which we should. So, you know, within that context, I want us to really deal with that issue, but when we get ready to deal with it, we don't try to deal with it on the flip side of the program. So we want to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to deal with the issue of violence in our community.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're back with Conversations with Zaki Baruti, and in studio with me is my good dear brother and comrade in the struggle, Brother Anthony Shahid.
Thank you, Brother Zaki.
Brother Shahid, you know, just before the break, I was sharing with you, as you already know, in terms of a lot of violence occurring in our community. And a lot of times people try to project, why don't they address, speaking of activists such as yourself and myself,
well, we've been doing
the violence that's in our community. Address that issue head on for me.
We've been dealing with it. It's just what they want to focus in on. You know, they don't want you to address what's happening with the police department, and we do. But we also have been addressed for the last 30 years. I mean, we've worked together on a whole lot of things. And I always have said, and that's what we agreed to, that as long as it's your daughter or son, you would understand what we're saying, and that's how we would get people out there. That's what we known for, the street patrols. You talked about another segment, how we would go out in the street. This is what we were known for, from 7 o'clock sometime to 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And a whole lot of people came through. That's where I first met Senator Jamila Nasheed over at the Peabody Projects. When we first used to go through there, I never knew who she was. If you ever ask her, she'll tell you that's where we met her at. You know, but we went into the streets and arrested a lot of brothers and sisters that was out there. So it wasn't just police, but that's when I started hearing about these dirty police, especially Lakeshaw. His reputation was putting guns and dope on people everywhere I went out there, because we were out in the street to prove that's what we were doing, and telling people to uplift themselves and that they were a mighty nation, and tell them, you know, their potentials and what they came from, how they were kings and queens. But they want to just focus in on the police department, and it's a lot of good police. I'm not anti-police. I deal with police. I'm not against all police. Whoever's against all police, that's their business. But I'm against police who are writing false reports and then putting drugs and dope and then everybody covering for them. But we deal with that, but we're also dealing with what's happening in our community, and we're going to deal with it in a huge way very shortly. April the 6th, April the 7th, April the 8th, and April the 9th, we're going into the streets. We're having a reunion. And we're taking men back into the street, and we're stepping into our community. We're stepping into making sure that we have attorneys on board, because when you go out there in the community, you got to bring resources, and that's what we're coming with. We're coming with serious resources. We have over 200 attorneys on board. You ask a question, go ahead.
Okay, no, I was just wanting you to finish your thought, but I wanted to go back and close out on the violence with the two sisters in our community from the perspective that we want to share, I'm sure you want to share, that we cannot tolerate that kind of behavior in our community, where people are accosting our young people and murdering. And so I just want the public to be absolutely clear from the head of the Tauheed Youth Organization, as well as from the Universal African People's Organization.
We got a problem with any murders It used to be a time when people would at least deal with the situation when, you know, they was out in the street, they were doing different things, but they wouldn't cross a line with a mom or a daughter and sister. There's no kind of way in the world we as men can sit back and see this happening. And if everybody shut their eyes, and I always use one of my children's name, and this time I'll say my son, he's named after me. If I shut my eyes and see him in that casket, my blessing is when I open my eyes, he's alive. My job is to try to keep him alive. And that's what we're doing. So we have to address it. But I think what happens is a lot of people don't see it as a 15-year-old granddaughter or a 15-year-old son or a member in their family do. They would go out there. And that's what have made me and you motivated for years. The Holy Quran tells to whom much is given, much is asked of. But they don't focus in when we out there. If people don't know that's what we're doing, it's because people are deliberately trying to keep that from them. The media don't want to put us out there in that light because they want to always play like we only do one thing and that's against what the police. We talk more about us shooting each other and killing each other than the police shooting us. It don't make no difference if the police shot Zaki or a person in the street shot Brother Shahid. I'm still shot, so we address that.
And so that's the importance of conversations with Zaki so that people can become aware that of the very critical issues and those people who are on the forefront of trying to make a change. And so to that end, also as an organization, we do publish a newspaper that's called the African News World as a way of educating our people. And I, again, just want to salute Channel 24 for having our program in the New Life Evangelistic Center. One other thing, though, since we're here in the studio, as I was coming in, I saw some sisters. Every time I come here, it breaks my heart to know that there are homeless people in our community when we have such affluence across America. Address that real briefly, then we want to get into the Tauheed Youth Reunion.
Well, I'm real sympathetic there because I was homeless, and if it wasn't for a Christian family by the name of Miss Martha Harvey, the Harvey family, I don't know where we'd be to this day. So I'm real sensitive about that, and that's what makes me so concerned about this guy, Francis Slay.
Francis Slay?
Yeah, he went out his way to try to make sure that he came against Reverend Wright because Reverend Wright won't play ball with him. You know, he's standing up, and I respect Reverend Rice. I really do. And that's why I come down here with you and your show, and the reason I come and do shows with him because I respect what he's doing and how he's working in this community. But I was homeless. I know what it feels to be homeless. And one time we have a time to really go into it. You heard me say we was P-O-R. We wasn't poor, we was poor.
Okay, well, I truly understand because, you know, I experienced the outhouse and the outside water faucet, odors of 10, so I know exactly what you're saying. You know, so with that said, in terms of transitioning, in terms of the Tauheed Youth Organization, you have made mention of it. I know you got a major activity that's coming down the pipeline. Share with, you know, our listening audience the dates, first of all, and then on the flip side of the program, we'll get into the details as
April
to...
the 6th, 7th.
April 6th, 7th,
8th, and 9th, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's a 4-day event, but it's going to continue because we're not going to just do it for 4 days. That's what we're kicking it off, and that's how it's going to start, but we're going to make sure that this here never stops. Okay, so it's a reunion of people that you have impacted in terms of their lives and organizing. Anybody, myself or Brother Haji Sultan, Brother Sultan Muhammad is 85 years old now, and he's been in the community for 67 years working in this community. So between myself and him, and anybody we've helped, not just been in our youth group, but anybody we've helped people on so many levels that God has blessed us, from jobs, from police shootings, from help getting funerals paid for, from house burnings up, you name it, from A to Z, brother. So 67 years, you can imagine what all the people he's touched and helped. That's called a complete dedication, and I just want to send a shout out to Brother Sultan also. On that note, we're going to take a break and be right back with Conversations with Zaki Baruti. Yes, sir. Back again with Conversations with Zaki Baruti, and in studio with me is my good comrade, a soldier in the movement, Anthony Shahid. Now, Brother Shahid, first of all, let me again compliment your activism and your outspokenness over the years. You have a major activity that's taken place, and it's a reunion. And what year in the reunion? This is the 30 years, but correction, we have a major event. All right, I stand corrected. Okay, we have a major activity that's taking place April the 6th through the 9th.
why have you put together this? And then let's go into the details of
because
what
of
it's
the
going to
violence
take.
all over this country. Because everywhere you go, if you call Chicago, right now they're saying Trump's talking about sending the feds. If you talk about Atlanta right now, if you call, make a call to Philadelphia, if you call Cincinnati, if you call Detroit, Michigan, wherever you call, it's murders. And if you shut your eyes, I keep telling people, and start seeing whoever you love, if it's your mom, if it's your sisters, your brothers, your niece, quit thinking about somebody else. Think about it being your family member. You'll understand the importance of. Jeanette Culpepper every year has a reading of names of people in this area, St. Louis, that's been murdered. And so you can't think that 200 or 300 people getting killed between here and the county every year and it's never going to be a blood family member. Well, we have to look at each one as a blood family member.
And to that note, you know, as an organization in some of our publications, we have done some studies of murder throughout America. And on the average, it runs about 25 to 30,000 people are murdered each year in this country, which is
more than
which
the
is
Vietnam War,
right.
48,000.
I mean, when you
years.
add up the years, as you say, the Vietnam War was approximately 9 years, and that transformed. That's way past the number of U.S. soldiers being killed there during the war. So, with that said, going back to the reunion, what are you hoping to accomplish out of the reunion?
Men stepping into their communities on a regular basis.
Men stepping into their community.
Men stepping up and being fathers. Men stepping up and being husbands. Men stepping up into black businesses. Men stepping into schools. Men stepping into the jails. Men stepping into whatever area, arena that God has blessed them with, whatever gift He has blessed them with, to step up and use that to be able to help us in our community. We're losing our race. If you're saying 30,000, that means you're losing your next lawyers and your doctors and your aviation people. You ask what's happening in your community, you're killing them. So we have to step up, and I'm thankful to, I got a young brother, I want to give a shout out to Victor Martin, but we call him Victor Ali. He's Allah blessed him to come on. He's been locked down 30 years, and he's out there with a soldier, and he's been my right-hand man for a good little while, so I'm thankful for that. And we're going straight in the street talking to street brothers. And, you know, Allah is blessing us. It's a good feeling to know that you're helping people and you're ready to change people's lives. And that 20 years from now, because people have a 25-year study around here, 25 years from now, I can see it whereas we won't even know that black people ever was getting killed and massacred like that because of what me and you and some of the brothers are doing, coming together. So
that's great. So now let's begin to detail each day. On April the 6th, what is to take place? It
really starts April the 3rd with 100 women that's coming out. I mean, March the 3rd, which is the month before, I have 100 women that's coming out to do nothing but making sure they post, going to beauty shops, to their schools, to their teachers, and everybody, get the husbands and fathers out. The next day, we're having a step show, March the 4th, at the Ambassador, where every organization from the sororities and the fraternities are coming out, and then they'll be stepping, but they're stepping, and it's symbolic to stepping into your community, stepping up and be fathers, stepping up into Afro World, stepping up into the Black Museum, stepping. The next event would be April the 6th, is the first day with meet and greet, where everybody that come together that haven't been around and start kind of getting their marching orders. Friday.
So where is that going to take place, the April 6th event?
And everything is going to be on our information here, and you'll have it where it'll be posted. But on the 6th is going to be at Vashon. That's where we're going to come and do our first reunion, and it has the date and times here. If you go on down here, then you'll look at the very next day, which would be Friday on the 7th. We have our Juma prayer, and we're going to have it at the Cochran, because Cochran Center was a place that we did a lot of things at.
Right, I can remember that.
That dinner is going to be that night, and that's going to be at Malik Ahmed's
Better Family Life building.
Better Family Life building on Page Avenue.
Okay, then. And so on that note, we're going to go back into some other the details when we come back from the break.
Beautiful.
You're back with Conversations with Zaki Baruti in studios, Anthony Shahid. Let's jump right into one of the major activities that's going to be taking place. April the 8th. Everybody mark on your calendar, April the 8th.
10,000 men, and you've promised us 100 men, and I'm thankful to Allah on that. The Harris Stowe College has promised us 100 men. Better Family Life said they're going to come up with 200 men, but every group and organization, Basic, have said that they would come up with 100 men, and we're going to go out into the streets, and that's going to be the biggest day because it's going to be in every city at the exact same time: Chicago, Philadelphia, Cincinnati, all around the country. And then the last day would be with the finale, and Brother Shahid would be the guest speaker, the main speaker, and I'll be speaking on a platform to black men all over the country, giving them their marching orders.
That's great. Now, when on that 10,000 men going into the community, exactly what you're going to be asking the men to do as they go into the community.
They take resources. We got everything from talking about attorneys, from everything from talking about getting jobs, also tax credits for people that need jobs because some of the brothers have felons, making sure that they put up insurance bonds up to $5,000, making sure that we step out there in the community, and if they got problems with paying child support, father support centers there. If they got problems with tickets or warrants, I'm dealing with 7 judges that also be tied into it. So we're going into the community coming with resources, because when you tell a man to put his drugs down, you got to replace it with something.
That's great. Now, for anybody who would like to have some information about it, do you have a website or anything?
Everything
can
is
you
right.
Cite the website?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. When they look down for more information, all they got to do is call Sister Felicia, and her telephone number is 314-327 0271. Or just go to Tauheed Youth Group Reunion 2017 at gmail.com.
Okay, then that's great. That's great. You know, some people let's deal with the criticism that sometimes people have as far as we have these major gatherings and nothing come of it. Just address that right quick.
Well, don't nothing come of it if they stop and don't work like me and you've been doing. We've been out here 40, 50 years and we're consistent. They have to be consistent. So, you know, that's a lot of talk, but this one here is going to be way different because everybody's going to have a place to be able to do something. And all they got to do is get with us and get with you. And I want to thank you for inviting me on your show. I want to thank Reverend Rice and Bob and also Bill for everything they do around here for us also.
Well, again, we're really appreciative of you being in the studio. On that note, it has been a very great show, and we encourage everyone to tune in every Saturday night, 11 p.m. to Conversations with Zaki Baruti.
Thank you, Brother Zaki.
And again, we want to thank you for your continual involvement in the community. On that note, again, Conversations with Zaki Baruti.